So there's a website I go to, which is Michael Freeman. He does soap opera updates, and everybody knows I love my soaps. And I really love his website. He does a really good job of reporting information. It's authentic, and the people on it are generally really, really nice. And it's a supportive group. Today wasn't so supportive, and I'm pretty upset by it, to be honest with you. I went to the website, and there was a story on Caitlyn Jenner, and she had visited the set of Young and the Restless, and there was a picture of her and Candace Kane and Abby Newman. I don't even know her real name, but I just like my soap opera characters to stay in character. So people were commenting and saying that they don't want her to do a spot on the show, they don't want her to be part of the show, they don't want us, they're sick of seeing her, the Kardashians took over the world. So my issue wasn't with the fact that people personally don't like Caitlyn Jenner or her family. My issue was the fact that people were using male pronouns and her birth name in the threads. To have society just make it even worse is just so cruel, to be honest with you. It's really, really cruel and unnecessary. And my biggest thing is this. Look, I don't care if you don't like Caitlyn Jenner as a person or what she stands for or her family or what they stand for. That's not really an issue to discuss, to be honest with you, because everybody is allowed to have their own opinion on that subject. What I do object to is the fact that they continuously use male pronouns to address her. You're disrespecting the trans community. You don't understand what it's like to be us. You don't understand that the suicide rate is so high, especially among youth. Like, she may not be the ideal person in a lot of people's minds to represent us, but she is got a platform that can influence a huge amount of people. The next generation, she can let them know that it's okay to be who you are. For trans youth to be able to transition and to become who they truly are as a person, and to have the support and the confidence that they need. And we've become more visible in the community by Caitlyn Jenner, by Candace Kane. People like that have really stepped up to the plate and brought us into the next generation and made the public see that it's okay. We're not out to hurt anybody. We're out to live our lives. And I think I'm finding it more upsetting the closer I get to my surgery date to realize that the comments I'm reading from most people is even after I have my surgery, they'll still think of me as a man. My family hasn't really been a huge support for me throughout my life. Some members have, but for the most part, most of them haven't. And just the other day, I was at my grandmother's house, and I've tried so hard to be a good person. I call her if something happens to make sure she's okay. She's called me, and I've brought her food. I've brought her stuff that she needed, without question, without question. But that woman hates me. That woman has hated me since I was a child. She pretends to like me and she tolerates me, but deep down inside, she has no respect for me. Although I married a doctor, that made her list. That's when she suddenly started talking to me and tolerating me. I don't allow her to get inside my head and to hurt me. But the other night, I was at her house and I was decided to clean out her fridge for her and to dust her whole house for her and vacuum and just really go an extra mile to try and help, because I won't be able to do it for a while after this. And unfortunately, as some of you know, I have a superior catheter, which is a tube in my belly that leads to a bag on my leg, and I have to pee from that because my bladder shut down and I have a lot of strictures on my penis, which is why they're rushing the sex change through to give me a better quality of life, because currently right now it's kind of sucky. So unfortunately I was on the floor, and as I was bending over to clean her fridge, um, my tube came loose from my bag, and I had an accident all over my leg, all over my foot, and on her floor. It was really embarrassing for me. I felt humiliated, and I had to go to the bathroom and I had to clean myself up. I came back to the kitchen and I thought that, I cleaned up everything as best I could. And then me and my aunt went to the groceries and we came back to my grandma's house after it was all done. And I was actually feeling really good. I was excited to see her because I was going to tell her, some of what was happening with the surgery, not all of it. We walked in the house and she just started bitching about her floor being sticky and that the girl that came to dinner, that made her dinner, had to mop the whole entire floor. She kept on and on about it, and my aunt saw me and saw that I was getting a bit upset by this. So she, um, said that it was the potatoes because we had found moldy potatoes that was liquefied under her chair. And I just, you know what? I wasn't going to hide from it. I have a medical condition that I have no control over. And part of my medical condition is because of the irresponsibility of my family, because I was supposed to have way more surgeries when I was a child, which would have corrected this problem. But they never bothered to care enough to tell me that I was supposed to have these surgeries. So I went my life not knowing why I was having so many problems with my penis and why it was so hard for me to pee and why I was having infections all the time. And that was the reason. So I told my grandmother, I apologized and I said, I'm really sorry. I had an accident on the floor with my bag and I thought I cleaned it up. I guess I didn't. Now, a normal person would just let that go and realize that my face was red. I was clearly, teary-eyed and I was upset by it and I was uncomfortable. Didn't stop her. Didn't stop her. She continued to go on about it, how it was, sticky. And, I made a slide joke saying, well, at least I didn't pee anybody. And she called me dirty and filthy and told me that I needed to change my bag more and that I wasn't doing it right. Normally, I'm a very strong person with my family. I don't let them get to me because they did that as a child with me all the time. And now I'm not going to let them do that. Now I'm confident enough that I just don't let myself get affected by what they say. But this affected me. I sat down. My aunt tried to encourage me to tell her what was going on with the surgeries. I attempted to, and she continued to cut me off, change the subject, and made it painfully obvious that she just did not care. She did not want to hear it, and I was wasting my time. I was not going to let it affect my relationship with her, and we were just going to continue to go on the way we've been going on for the last couple of years. So I get a phone call from her, and she's screaming at me on the other end of the phone because I moved her pictures, and I didn't put them back the exact way she had them. Now, mind you, this is me moving her pictures to dust off her mantle, which hasn't been dusted off in probably a year or two. Trying to do something nice for her. And she yelled at me and told me never to touch them again. And made a couple other comments and then just hung up the phone on me. I was in shock and hurt. And it was at that moment that I realized that I knew how she felt about me. But I've always tried to really sort of avoid it and not really face it because I don't want to face it. I don't understand how anybody could be so cruel to a human being. I don't understand how somebody could be so I don't understand how somebody could be just so mean-spirited and not look at the fact of how she treated me as a child. That when I came out that I was trans, how awful she was to me and how isolated she made me feel. And I wasn't invited to family dinners. I mean, if I was, I was forced to eat off plastic forks and plastic plates, and I was isolated to a separate table. I wasn't allowed to eat with the rest of my family. That was my childhood. That was how my grandmother treated me. And when it came to light, when I got all the medical records and I realized that I was born intersex, so I had both genders, and my whole family knew this, it made the pain even worse. It made it 10 times worse for me because it wasn't like they were just being cruel because they were uneducated. They were being cruel intentionally, and they knew that this was not my fault, that this is how I was born. They were told, they were informed. They just didn't care enough to further their education or try to understand or try to give me the help I needed. They chose that this is the gender I was supposed to be, which was male to them, and that's it. That's all they cared about. The reason why I told that story was because I wanted the people that are the ones that are referring to Caitlyn Jenner as him or he, that my story is one of thousands of horrific childhoods and inner demons that you couldn't possibly imagine of what we go through just trying to understand our own gender identity. It is the most confusing thing a person can go through. It truly is. We have a hard enough time accepting ourselves, but to have the world be so cruel as of a constant reminder of how different we are and the fact that we're not male or female. We don't fit into those categories, that we're in this way category way out here. It's hurtful. And even though those derogatory comments, transphobic comments, were not directed towards me, because I'm a trans woman, and I can only imagine having to live 60 some years in the wrong gender and having to fight with yourself to keep that part of your life hidden. I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't. I was lucky. I was a very strong child. I came out when I was 9 years old and never looked back. I lost my family over it. I had no friends. And I was very lonely, and I made really bad choices in my life. But to me, I couldn't live any other way. I couldn't possibly live as a male because I wasn't a male. I didn't feel like a male. I didn't think like a male. I didn't talk like a male. Nothing about me was male, except for the fact that I had a penis. So I had to live my truth. And I was able to do that. It was hard, but I was able to do it. Caitlyn had to live 60 years of her life trapped in this persona which she didn't feel comfortable. It's like putting on somebody else's pants. How uncomfortable would that be? So I'm just asking. You may not like her as a person. You may not like me as a person. You may not support our choices in life. But you have human decency inside of you to understand the hell that we have to deal with on a daily basis. We bash ourselves enough, we judge ourselves enough that you don't have to do it to us too. Thank you again. I hope I was able to shed some light on the other side of this issue.